So there are a few things that I really like: cartoons, movies, house music, and Oreo cookies. One of those things I really need to let go of: the cookies. Recently, I was thinking about different cartoons that had episodes where house music and club culture was featured. First, hi, welcome to the Beneficial Blerd Channel. My name is Jamal Calpen. Thank you for joining me. I like to talk about media and entertainment and also things that can help us become beneficial men. So deconstructing a lot of beliefs and stuff like that, things to help us get out of the matrix. With that being said, now let me clear something up. Even though I'm a huge fan of house music, EDM, dance music, whatever you want to call it, I've never really participated in club culture. In my teens and 20s, I was doing my best to be a Christian, so I wasn't out there like that. Sometimes I wish I was, though. I might have gotten some of those like cool rave clubs, you know, with the fingertips that people be dancing around with stuff. I kind of wanted that stuff. I was really into glow sticks. All that stuff was really, really cool to me. But let's get into the actual point of this video, which is I want to share with you 5 of my favorite cartoon episodes that highlighted rave culture. First, SpongeBob SquarePants, Jellyfish Jam, Season 1, Episode 7. So this is a classic SpongeBob episode. I'm sure you've probably seen it at some point in your lifetime. SpongeBob is out jellyfishing. While he's getting ready to go home, I think he catches a jellyfish and he lets it go and he's trying to leave, but the jellyfish is just like following him and it won't let him go and it's kind of harassing him. So eventually, you know, SpongeBob is like, all right, fine, you don't want to leave me? If you don't want to leave or you don't want to stay here, you can come home with me. So he makes the jellyfish in an impromptu pet and is going home. And before he gets to his pineapple home, he sees Squidward and tells him, hey, look, I got this jellyfish as a pet. And Squidward's like, that's not a pet, that's a wild animal. And Squidward is trying to warn SpongeBob about keeping a wild animal as a pet. But SpongeBob, being SpongeBob, ignores Squidward's warning, right? And they go in the house and the whole time, the jellyfish and SpongeBob are partying for 12 hours.
SpongeBob is the only guy I know that can have fun with a jellyfish for 12 hours!
And in this scene, this party scene, there's these huge speakers, there's all this Technicolor light, there's all this stuff going on, and they're just dancing and just listen to this like fast-paced music. And it sounds like, I can't remember the name of the song, but it's clearly like almost a cover for another like house music song. If I remember what it is, I'll put it on the screen. This episode is just so funny because like he's dancing, partying, and of course they're playing this music loud and obnoxiously, and gets on Squidward's nerves. Eventually, you know, SpongeBob is like, all right, it's time to turn it in. It's been enough partying for today, because again, they had been partying for 12 hours straight. And he's like, all right, it's time to go to bed. But when SpongeBob tries to go to bed, the jellyfish is like, oh no, I'm going to keep partying. And so eventually SpongeBob is able to go to sleep, and the jellyfish is kind of like tied up to a leash. He gets out and his other jellyfish friends show up at SpongeBob's house, and they all break in to the house, and then they start partying again. And it's again this huge rave situation or whatever, and they're playing the music, speakers are going crazy, lights are going crazy. And SpongeBob wakes up and is like looking for the jellyfish, his new pet or whatever, and then he goes into the rest of the house and sees that the jellyfish had welcomed other jellyfish. So now the jellyfish is like swarmed inside of his house, and it becomes a whole hectic thing. And eventually there's this battle of music and sound between Squidward and the jellyfish, and the jellyfish go and really beat up Squidward. You know, they sting him over and over and over again. Eventually SpongeBob has to get the jellyfish out of the house, because they've like taken over his house and they're stinging him and doing all kinds of crazy stuff and swarming. And I think the way the episode ends is that Gary starts to make music with his eyes, and they end up leading the jellyfish out back into nature and stuff like that. And it's a happy ending, you know. But the episode, I thought that was, you know, a hilarious episode, but it's just cool how they introduced or had that partying scene in there. Number 2, Foster's House of Imaginary Friends, Partying is Such Sweet Soiree, Season 2, Episode 1. This might be one of my favorite cartoon episodes of all time. It's so funny to me, it's so enjoyable, and of course there's house music vibes that can't be ignored. In this episode, Blue throws a huge party at the house while Madam Foster and Frankie are away. The party has everything: lights, dancing, drinks, there's punch that, you know, they're just pouring tons and tons of sugar in, and even a dance off, which is like one of my favorite parts. So Wilt one of the main characters, ends up getting in this dance battle, like this impromptu dance battle with another imaginary friend called Dancy Pantalones, or Fancy Dancy Pantalones. And so they're doing this dance off back and forth, right? And Wilt, by accident, ends up winning the dance off because he's slipping on marbles and stuff like that. But it's just funny. So you get this whole party. Blue is trying to keep Mr. Harriman and Duchess away from stopping the party. So like Duchess is trying to snitch on Blue and the rest of the imaginary friends to Mr. Harriman, so Mr. Harriman can then call Madame Foster and then shut down the party. So they have to keep doing these things to like keep Duchess preoccupied. They send Mr. Harriman to go chase a refrigerator. Somebody does a prank call and asks, "Is your refrigerator running?" That whole gag or whatever, and he disappears. But the thing about it is, like, during this whole party, Mac shows up, and Blue, who we come to find out throughout the show is kind of like sort of a bad influence on Mac, is trying to get Mac to eat sweets or eat candy. But Mac can't eat candy. He can't eat sweets because he's really sensitive to sugar. And so Blue is just like, yo, just have some whatever kind of candy. He just keeps offering it. Mac is running away and trying to escape, right? And at this one part, Mac had slipped and fell running away from Blue. And somebody had crashed into this party table that had punch in it. Punch that somebody had poured tons and tons of one of the imaginary friends had poured tons and tons of sugar into. And that falls over, right? It goes up in the air and it falls over. And just one little drop lands in Mac's mouth. And he goes crazy. And like he gets out of his clothes. He's jumping around, swinging on chandeliers and stuff. He's running naked. It's just crazy. Like the way that the episode is done, it just seems like a real like dude's night out kind of thing. Just really ridiculous. But again, the whole thing I liked about it is the whole atmosphere, again, is this club scene. So you have like this DJ, I think it's a spider DJ, spinning tunes, big speakers, all this stuff, lights and stuff going on. It's very rave culture-esque. Is again one of my favorite episodes. It's hilarious. I think it's a classic. Number 3, Adventure Time, Belly of the Beast, Season 2, Episode 21. So this episode, I thought this episode is so funny. This might be, in regards to humor, is kind of close behind the Foster's House of Imaginary Friends episode, right? So there is, like, the synopsis of this episode is that Finn and Jake go inside the belly of a monster to rescue a bunch of bears who have made the monster's stomach their new party cave. And so, Adventure Time is great for just, they have like awkward jokes and it's just funny, it's just funny. So like, I think Finn and Jake are out somewhere and there's this giant who's kind of causing problems. And so they're trying to figure out what's going on with this giant, and come to find out, yeah, there's this party of bears, like these stuffed animal bears or whatever. They look like stuffed animal bears, partying inside of the giant's stomach. And so it's like almost giving the giant indigestion, right? And so the giant's trying to do whatever it can to kind of resolve this issue. As the episode goes on, you find out later that the giant is going to try to drink, I think it does. I think it like drinks lava or something like that to get rid of all the bears. And so Finn and Jake are like trying to get the bears out of the giant. But all the bears keep doing is partying. They just keep partying all the time. And there's this one little bear in the episode, Cubby, I think. And so Cubby is trying to let Finn and Jake know, like, no, this is messed up. We really need to get out of here. And Cubby has been trying to tell all the bears.
I'm Cubby.
Hi, Cubby. What's going on?
I heard what you said about this being a monster's belly. I've been telling everyone that for 3 days.
That like, no, we got to stop. This is not right. We're inside of it. Like, we're inside of a giant. This is not a good place to be. But they just keep partying and partying and partying, and which makes sense because their leader is Party Pet, which is this chilled out, cool bear that's, like doesn't look like the regular bears. It's tall. I think he's wearing a hat, and he's just trying to party the whole time and be very relaxed. So even when Finn and Jake are trying to express to him that there are these problems going on, he's just like, no, like we're just going to keep partying. And eventually they end up getting out of the giant. But it's just so funny, the fact that they were just so engulfed in this partying culture. Like there's this one scene where Cubby is trying to talk. Cubby is trying to talk to Finn and Jake, but he has to like hide himself, and because the other bears are gonna like rat him out, so he's just trying to like, no, I'm partying, I'm dancing, look at me, I'm dancing, and like they're like checking on him, like getting ready to, you know, reprimand him for not partying. And again, it's just a funny episode that features this rave party culture again with Party Pat and these party bears. And what happens is that this is just a clip. It says the scene skips to Finn treating the bear's burn wounds and informing Party Pat. So this is like they just escaped the giant, right? The scene skips to Finn treating the bear's burn because the giant did, you know, swallow lava to get rid of the problem. The scene skips to Finn treating the bear's burn wounds and informing Party Pat that his clan is now free to party outside. This latter offer is met with discontent from the bears, and Pat responds that in order to survive,
my people need a fat party club to grind in.
And that the monster's gut was totally excellent, setting a deal with a monster that they will replace their fireworks with gentle laser pointers. Party Pat and the bears are let back into the now content monster's stomach to party once more. So the whole issue was, while they're partying, they're setting off fireworks and stuff, but instead of fireworks, they use lasers. Because again, later lasers, fog machines, all that stuff, that's all you need for a good house party, you know, good rave, get it going. So yes, that's Adventure Time. Thanks for watching so far. I got a couple more episodes, a couple more cartoons on the list. But before then, if you're liking the show so far, let me know who's your favorite house, EDM, dance music, DJ, or artist is in the comments. Appreciate it. Number 4, Powerpuff Girls. This is the reboot version of the show. The episode Painbow, Season 1, Episode 4. So when I came across this episode from the 2016 reboot of the Powerpuff Girls, I was really shocked. Like outside of the clear club and rave cultural vibes, I was trying really hard to not get caught up thinking that everyone was under the influence of hard drugs, which can kind of make sense since drugs are often associated with rave culture. But for those who haven't seen this episode, it starts with Buttercup sitting in Mrs. Keene's class during a grammar lesson. Buttercup, in her true rebellious nature, makes jokes and disrupts the class, right? All the stuff that Buttercup would do. Eventually, Miss Keene has it up to here. She has had enough of Buttercup and her antics, and she's getting ready to reprimand her, right? But before she could issue her punishment, this strange rainbow appears in the sky in the city of Townsville. When this happens, right before the punishment is given, Mrs. Keene's disposition changes. It's like she becomes super happy and just super cozy and cool. And also her irises change colors. They're like all rainbow. And the same thing happens with all the other students in the classroom. Miss Keene, in this new euphoric state, excuses Buttercup's behavior and allows the class to leave early. When the class is dismissed early, Buttercup meets up with Blossom, who isn't having a good day so far. Blossom explains how she had a terrible class because her teacher, who has also been impacted by the mysterious rainbow in the sky, gave everyone in the class an A for a diorama project that they were supposed to do. And, you know, Blossom's a classic, almost like type A overachiever. But this upsets Blossom because she put in all this hard work, and then there are other people in the class who didn't do anything. Like there's one kid who says like,
He gave everyone an A+. I sneezed in a box.
So that happens, right? So everybody in the town is starting to just act really funny. And so while Buttercup and Blossom are talking, Buttercup eventually asks, like, where's Bubbles? Have you seen Bubbles? And it pans over to Bubbles being covered by a group of kids who are in this huge hug. They're, you know, offering hugs because everybody's in this euphoric state where they're just very affectionate and happy and stuff like that. So at this point, everyone is tripping out in Townsville. Like people are getting in car accidents, but they're so happy that they're still like, oh, it's no problem, just smiling and dancing and stuff like that. They eventually look and like, all right, what's going on? Maybe it has something to do with this giant rainbow that's in the sky that's making everybody go crazy. So they end up flying up to the top of the rainbow. When they get to the rainbow, right, there is this, again, huge rave club party scene, right, that's happening in the clouds. And there you see all these animals, these happy animals dancing around. One of the animals or whatever is like eating clouds. There's a DJ. They're just dancing around or whatever, right? And eventually they go up there and they're like, what is happening? What's going on? What is this? And they're greeted by a floating panda named Allegro, right? So there's this this panda bear that were, pandas aren't bears, but there's this panda that shows up and is floating around, introduces himself as Allegro, and is trying to encourage the girls to like relax, party, just have a good time. Everyone should just be happy, right? And they're trying to confront Allegro. I was like, but don't you realize that what you're doing is causing all this pain and like problems and stuff? And he's like, there's no problems. Everybody's happy. Don't you want everybody to be happy? Don't you want everybody to be happy? And so like Buttercup is still being kind of the stick in the mud at this point, right? She's kind of like, this is creepy. This is really weird. Allegro is like offering hugs. He's like, come on, don't you want a hug? So like Bubbles hugs Allegro, and then her iris is changed. And so she gets like, the scene cuts away. You see Allegro, and it cuts back to Bubbles, and she's got on like all these rave clothes, like all these technicolors, rainbow colors and stuff like that. So she's like in her element. You know, Bubbles is really like Unikitty almost. So in this place, it's just like just going crazy, right? And eventually they get to Blossom. They have these party lobsters that attack the girls, and with these smiley face discs, and one hits Blossom, and now she's in the same rave mode. So her iris has changed, and she's just like in this euphoric state as well. And so they're dancing and enjoying the rave of what's going on. But Buttercup is still like, no, this is crazy. What is happening? And Allegro is just like, eventually like, you're killing my vibe, like all your like moodiness and all your sadness. And it's like she's trying to like, she's realizing how her being like a class clown and her not being irresponsible is actually, you know, there's a time and place to clown around. There's a time and a place to like horseplay and stuff like that. But in certain situations, like important things, you got to be serious, because again, down in Townsville, there are accidents, stuff is on fire, all these things are, you know, falling apart, but nobody's really paying attention to it because they're all in this euphoric, hypnotized state because of the rainbow and because of the fun that Allegro is allowing to rain down on Townsville. And so Buttercup is getting real serious and focused and reflective, and Allegro is like, Allegro doesn't like that, right? And so he's just like,
Uh-oh, introspection bums Allegro out.
you're like killing my vibe. And so he's trying to like coax Buttercup into hugging him so that she could, you know, be a part of the party and part of the happiness as well. And he just keeps like trying to hug her. He calls the party lobsters on her to, you know, try to get her to be happy as well. And eventually, you know, Buttercup, you know, but he's still like happy. He's like, oh, he's still happy or whatever. And like she hits him like 3 times, I think 3 or 4 times, in this outer shell of Allegro, this big panda cracks and is destroyed. And on the inside, we see this little floating blue bear that goes crazy, kind of implodes, and all of the things with the rainbow disappear. And that's kind of how the episode ends, right? So the day is saved again by the girls and by the Powerpuff Girls in Townsville, and everything's kind of like restored, or at least it's starting to be addressed and fixed. But I thought that episode was just so funny because, again, to me, it's really interesting, the stuff that animators and the creators of these children's shows, the stuff that they put in there, because I definitely feel like everybody in the episode was on drugs. But again, it's a funny episode, and I like how they introduced or fused in rave culture. Last but not least, this is probably my favorite cartoon episode that features rave, house music, dance culture. And it's from Samurai Jack. Jack and the Rave is the name of the episode, and it is episode 28. And that's from season 3, episode 28. This episode is just a classic to me. It's a classic. So Jack is doing what Jack does, going from town to town, moving around, making his way, trying to get back to the past, you know, so he can deal with Aku. And so he comes into this one town where it seems just like completely empty, right? And he goes into an inn, and when he enters the inn, the innkeeper or whatever is just crying. He's just boo-hooing, crying the whole time. And like uncontrollably crying. And so Jack is like, hey, I just want to see if I can get a room. Like, is there any rooms available for the night? And the guy is saying like, yeah, but he's just crying. And he's like trying to talk to him, crying. He's like, what's wrong? And eventually the guy's like, the music. And so he slams the door and Jack is in his room. And then you start to hear just doom, 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 doom. You start to hear all this music, right? And at night, since it's nighttime now, you just hear this loud thumping music outside. And Jack looks outside, and like in the distance, if I remember correctly, in the distance, there's like lights and stuff going off. But then there are all these people walking around in the city, and they have dressed up in like glowing outfits and stuff that, again, rave culture, but it's like futuristic because it's Samurai Jack. And so Jack is watching this and seeing all these people walk right and going in. And as they're walking, they're starting to like bust up stuff. They're like trashing the city, trashing the town that they're in, breaking glass and things like that. And so Jack goes outside to fight them because it's like, Jack is always going to try to do what's right. And so it's like, what's happening here? People busting up stuff and causing all these problems. Before Jack is about to use his sword to, vanquish some foes. And the innkeeper runs out and is like, wait, don't do it. They're children. And so Jack pauses and he realizes and he sees and he looks and like they're all kids. All the creatures of the night that were walking around these people, they're all children. And so eventually like he stops and then they kind of jump him and beat him up. The innkeeper explains to Jack that like, at some point the music started playing every night and it hypnotizes the children and they all go to this rave, right? And so Jack is like, no, like this is, the evil Abaku, obviously. And he's like, you can't be messing with the kids. This is my paraphrase. You can't be messing with the kids. So like Jack, as he is committed to vanquishing evil. So he's like, all right, I'm gonna go check it out so I can figure out what's happening. So Jack goes, he eventually, I think he ends up taking the clothes of like one kid and disguises himself so he can go to this rave, go to this party, right? And you get there and it's this huge stadium and it's all these kids in there blaring speakers. Kids are like hanging off the rafters, jamming on the speakers. They got like these cool glow in the dark whips that they're spinning around and stuff. And again, if I wasn't trying to be saved, this is like the stuff that I would want to go to. And they have that kind of stuff, like which one that's really popular? But there are different festivals. There are all these different cool rave and house music EDM like festivals. And I've always wanted to go to one. And I guess, I don't know, the opportunity may still exist or whatever. I've been to a handful of house music rave kind of events. Some are a little bit smaller, but this one, again, the one that's in Samurai Jack's is huge. It's like in a stadium. And it's just ridiculous. So it's all this stuff going on. And of course, you just got all this house music just going. And so eventually the music is so loud, Jack ends up getting like, he rips cloth off his shirt to plug up his ears. And he also notices that at some point, the bad guy in the episode, of course, works for Aku, but he's a DJ. So the DJ is spinning music that he ends up using to hypnotize the children to do whatever he wants them to do, because he finds out that he sees Jack out in the audience. And so he plays a mix. He plays a song that leads to all the kids attacking and trying to get Jack. But Jack, knowing that they're kids, kind of just like pushes them around and punches them stuff, like, because he's not gonna seriously hurt any of the children. And so the episode goes on. Jack ends up like doing kung fu moves. It becomes a dance. Everybody's dancing around, all this stuff. He's getting jumped by all these kids who are hypnotized by the music. And he gets up on the stage. He has like this dance off kind of breakdance battle fight with the DJ. By the end, he uses his sword to destroy the DJ equipment, which releases all of the children and gets rid of the evil that Aku had placed in the music. And the episode, just to this day, it just still geeks me out. It's one of my favorite episodes of any show. It's just so cool. I love it. I love it. It's just amazing. But yes, those are my top five. Samurai Jack, Powerpuff Girls, Adventure Time, Foster's House of Imaginary Friends, and SpongeBob SquarePants. And I got an honorable mention, American Dad, Standard Deviation, Season 11, Episode 22. In that episode, Stan's boss, Bullock, is moonlighting, I guess, as a DJ. So every night he DJs as DJ Buttercup. And he just been winning these like DJ battles or something like that. And he's just playing in his club, but it ruins his sleep. So he he ends up like sending all of the Stan and other agents that work in the office with him on these crazy missions because he's operating off of like 2 hours of sleep and like cocaine and all this stuff. So it's a crazy episode, but honorable mention, the other 5 stand out to me more. And of course they're tied to my childhood. So yes, top 5 cartoon episodes that feature house music. So yes, got it. I love it. I like hip hop, but my first musical love had to be house/dance music. Every time I hear a good groove and some 4 on the floor, I start to get amped up. So it brings a smile on my face whenever house music shows up in the media. Let me know in the comments if you remember these episodes or any other cartoons that highlighted house dance music. I appreciate you watching. Talk to y'all later. Peace.
Must be some interference.